Several decades ago, there lived a man named Ajala. He was a wealthy cocoa farmer in a big town and renowned for his business skills. People came from far away to patronize his business, making him the wealthiest in town. He built 10 gigantic houses, rode beautiful cars of their time, and both young and old wished to be as wealthy as him. People often called him Ajala Onikoko, acknowledging his business prowess. His wife, Achike, bore him 2 children, Tomi and Funto. Everything went well for Ajala and his business until one fateful day. After a hectic business day, he returned home tired and decided to lay down and rest. While sleeping, he had a terrible dream, the first of its kind. He dreamt of 10 flourishing palm trees and the heart of a fertile farm in a thick forest. While walking down the farm, he saw some palm fruit falling on the ground and decided to pick a few. As he was about to eat the palm fruits, a loud sound startled him. Then he turned around only to see that one of the palm trees had fallen. He wondered what made the tree fall. Before he could investigate, another palm tree fell, and this continued until 9 palm trees had fallen, leaving just one standing. Ajala awoke from his dream, sweating and terrified, unable to interpret its meaning despite his efforts. Yet, he kept having strange feelings towards the dream. He planned visiting a spiritualist for divine guidance, but his busy schedules failed him, and so he procrastinated and soon forgot about the dream. 1 month later, on a sunny Sunday afternoon, Ajala was at home taking a nap when he heard a loud uproar on the street. He stood up and hurriedly looked through the window. There he saw a mammoth crowd in front of his house. It was as if the whole town came mourning at his house. He was puzzled and rushed downstairs to inquire about the situation. Getting downstairs, he saw them crying and talking over the situation. Despite his questions, no one answered, and they only murmured sympathies. No one could audibly speak. Instead, they grumbled and told him to take heart. Ajala became worried, but after several persuasion, finally, a young man revealed that 9 of his buildings had collapsed. Dumbstruck, Ajala quietly walked into his house, picked his car key, and drove to all the houses for confirmation. And lo, all he saw were collapsed buildings. Devastated as he drove back home, he remembered his dream and wept profusely, regretting not seeking spiritual help and interpretations. Perhaps it would have been averted. That night, Ajala wept like a baby and wished he could turn his situation around. Within 2 months, his life was reduced to almost nothing. He lost all his cars and business. He became broke and sold his last car to survive. His wife couldn't bear his unfavorable condition, so she left him, relocating to the city with their 2 children, leaving Ajala alone in his total doom. Despite his efforts to revive his cocoa business, he faced continuous losses, leading to unending frustration and bitterness. Ajala got fed up and became bitter. Life became more difficult for him. To make a living, Ajala partitioned his house for rent, but made the house a living hell for all his tenants. He showered his tenants with curses. He became aggressive and toxic. Despite his tenants' efforts to avoid him, Ajala caused them day after day, worsening his reputation in town, and he was nicknamed Baba Ilikbe. One day, a tenant returning from the well accidentally splashed water on Ajala as she passed by the balcony. Enraged, Ajala unleashed a torrent of curses upon her. However, this tenant was different. She remained calm and composed, refusing to retaliate or engage in an argument. Instead, she silently reversed all of Ajala's curses, sending them back to him and his descendants. While other tenants might have responded with anger and curses of their own, this tenant chose to break the cycle of negativity. She refused to let Ajala's curse affect her and her family, returning them to their source instead. The next day, The woman could no longer bear living in Ajala's house and receiving curses each day, and so she moved out of his house. 10 years later, after so much frustration, loneliness and depression, Ajala gave up the ghost. His wife returned to the town and sold off his house after his burial ceremony before returning to the city. In the city, Ajala's children, Tomi and Fonto, had just graduated from university and secured good jobs, living a prosperous life. Their lives seemed perfect and beautiful. However, their happiness was short-lived as they approached marriageable age. Tomi, the eldest, fell in love with a beautiful woman called Debimpe and proposed to her. They planned their wedding meticulously, inviting guests from far and wide. Tragically, just 3 days before the wedding, Debimpe abruptly called up the engagement, breaking Tomi's heart. Tomi pleaded with her to reconsider, but she refused and warned him never to come close to her anymore, leaving him devastated and without closure. A year later, Tomi found love again with another beautiful woman, and the relationship was admired by many. They set a wedding date, and this time, Tomi was spared from heartbreak. However, tragedy struck on their wedding night when his wife suddenly passed away. Tomi was left in deep pain, struggling to understand the string of misfortunes that had befallen him and his family. Funto, Tomi's sister, also faced hardship in her relationships. She was constantly used and dumped by men who promised her marriage but left after being intimate with her. One night, Tomi had a dream. He dreamt of his father on a large farm in the forest. They were working together, tilling the soil, but suddenly, his father grew angry at his pace and began to verbally abuse him. This dream left Tomi terrified and confused about its meaning. He sought his mother's advice, but she told him to disregard it. 3 years later, Tomi met Bola, a beautiful and spiritual woman, and shared his stories of bad luck in love and marriage with her. Despite his past, Bola agreed to love and support him. They began planning their wedding, but Tomi started experiencing disturbing nightmares. He repeatedly dreamt of losing Bola on their wedding night. He narrated everything to his mother, but she told him to be brave and never worry about it. Perhaps you're just suffering from the previous traumas you've had regarding your past relationships and marriage, said his mother. Tomi, troubled by the persistent nightmares, shared his concerns with his fiancée, Bola, who decided to seek help from a spiritualist. Upon meeting the spiritualist, he prayed for them and then asked for money to perform rituals to break the enchantments affecting Tomi's life. Tomi, who was desperate for a solution, made immediate payments and even added extra for the spiritualist. However, as they were preparing to leave, the spiritualist called Bola separately into his inner chamber and warned her to flee for her life. Young lady, your mother was good while she was alive, and I see her spirit is solidly behind you. The best advice I can give you is to leave this man because his battles are too heavy for you to fight. If you go ahead with this wedding, you will die 7 days after your wedding, he said. Bola was shocked at his words. Nevertheless, she thanked him and quickly joined Tomi. After returning home, Bola carefully considered the spiritualist's warning and made a difficult decision. She broke up with Tomi and fled for her safety, leaving Tomi devastated once again. The cycle of pain, heartbreak, and disappointment continued in Tomi's life. He lost hope in marriage and lived a hopeless life. However, when he turned 40 years of age, he had the same dream about his father. Again, this time he was determined to break the curse. He rushed to his best friend, Tunde, who took him to another spiritualist. The spiritualist confirmed that Tomi's family was under a powerful curse. He told him he would need to make some sacrifices to break the curses, which he did. At midnight that day, the spiritualist took him to a T-junction to perform some curse-breaking rituals. A few months later, Tommy found love again and got married to another woman. The relationship seemed blessed, and they were overjoyed when she became pregnant. Tommy thought all the curses had been broken. However, tragedy struck once more when his wife died during childbirth along with their baby. Devastated and disillusioned, Tommy gave up completely on marriage. 2 months after his wife's passing, Tommy was carelessly walking down the street when he encountered an old woman begging for money. Reluctantly, he reached into his pocket and gave her some money before continuing on his way. However, the old woman called out to him, prompting him to stop and turn back. The old woman first thanked Tommy for his kindness and then began to reveal shocking details about his life. He recounted all the hardships Tommy and his sister had faced, including their failed relationships and tragic losses. Tommy was shocked by the accuracy of her accounts and wondered how she knew so much about his family struggles. Intrigued, he listened attentively as she continued. The old woman revealed that Tommy's family was under a powerful curse that seemed almost unbreakable. Tommy, desperate for a solution, pleaded with her to help them break the curse. The woman agreed but instructed Tommy to bring his mother and sister to her house the following day. The old woman gave Tommy her address and bid him farewell. The next day, Tommy and his family went to the old woman's house, and there she explained the details of their predicament. She told them how their father had cursed a lot of people while he was alive, and how many of those he cursed had died and some became useless as a result of his curse. She particularly made reference to one of his tenants who would reverse back all his curses upon him and his descendants, and as a result, this curse is upon them and will also be upon their children. The old woman continued, explaining that as a result of the curse, Tommy would never have a stable marriage. Even if he did marry, all his children and wives would die mysteriously. And for Funto, men who came closer to her would feel irritated and ultimately reject her, leaving her constantly used and abandoned. Tommy and his family were shocked by the revelation and fell to their knees, weeping bitterly as they pleaded with the old woman to help them break the curse. Despite the daunting nature of the curse, the old woman promised to do her best to help them, though she expressed uncertainty about its potential to be broken. Nevertheless, she reassured them of her commitment to try. To break the curse, the woman prepared a lot of sacrifices and rituals. She went from one forest to another, pleading with the spirit in charge of establishing curses to let go of Tommy and his family. She continued her rituals for 14 days and nights, pleading with the spirits. On the 14th night, while she was at the evil forest to complete the rituals, she dropped the sacrifices she prepared under a tall iroko tree and made some special incantations, pleading with the spirits in charge of curses to answer her prayers with signs. And suddenly, a spirit figure appeared to her, telling her he has seen all her efforts and sacrifices to break their curses, but he won't accept the sacrifice. The spirit revealed that he wanted people to understand the consequences of negative speech. Those who speak ill of others will also suffer repercussion. Despite the spirit's initial reluctance, the old woman continued to plead for forgiveness, offering prayers and numerous incantations. After hours of pleading, the spirit relented, accepted her sacrifices, and blessed the family. The old woman returned home and shared the victorious news with Tommy and his family. However, she also issued a stern warning, advising them never to live a negative life regardless of their circumstances. She emphasized the importance of watching their words and speaking positively about others, as well as living harmoniously with everyone. She reminded them that no evil act goes unpunished and then encouraged them to always choose kindness and compassion in their interactions with others. They all learned their lessons and chose to choose their words carefully while living a good life. After the successful breaking of the curse, Tommy got married and Funso also got married to the love of their life. They had beautiful children and lived happily ever after. I hope you enjoyed this story. It's worthy of note that today's actions can affect tomorrow and the coming generations. So never plant thorns on other people's path, because your children and generation will walk that path barefooted and never survive the hurt. I hope you learned something great from this video. Kindly drop your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more interesting stories than these. See you in the next video. Bye.